Hello everyone, and welcome back to your daily government and financial news update. As always, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on everything, so make sure to give this video a like, but also leave a comment below giving your thoughts on everything that is currently going on. Okay, so it was an eventful day yesterday with $6 billion more in student loans being canceled and an important ruling by the Supreme Court dealing with, of course, the Second Amendment, which we will get to later in this video. But first, President Biden made some remarks during a meeting on federal-state offshore wind implementation partnership. Simultaneously, as I just mentioned, the Supreme Court was ruling in the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruen, where they affirmed that gun rights are due the same protection as all other constitutional rights. The question at hand was, can the state of New York require that applicants for gun carry permits, quote, demonstrate a special need for self-protection distinguishable from that of the general community, or is New York obliged by the Constitution to offer a, quote, shall issue regime of the sort that 43 of the other 49 states have adopted? By a 6-3 vote, the justices decided that the latter approach is required. Clarence Thomas's majority opinion then concluded authorities must issue concealed carry licenses whenever applicants satisfy certain threshold requirements, without granting licensing officials discretion to deny licenses based on a perceived lack of need or suitability. So the bottom line here, as the National Review puts it, New York is allowed to exclude carry permit applications on a categorical basis, such as the applicant having a felony conviction, but not on a subjective one, such as the applicant not needing a gun, in the view at least of a determining officer. Also, the exercise of other constitutional rights does not require individuals to demonstrate to government officers some special need. The Second Amendment right to carry arms in public for self-defense is no different. New York's proper cause requirement violates the 14th Amendment by preventing a law-abiding citizen with ordinary self-defense needs from exercising their right to keep and bear arms in public. And so this was obviously a very important ruling for the Supreme Court, as they did rule correctly in this one, and it was a huge win for the Second Amendment. Now, during Biden's meeting, he was asked about the ruling, which, by no surprise, he disagreed with, but you'll see something very interesting if you pay real special attention to what President Biden is holding, rather than, of course, what he's actually saying. Watch and pay attention to the notes that he has.
I am disappointed in the Supreme Court gun decision. There is one little bit of solace in the minority making up the majority opinion has laid out that it affects not every state. It affects only 40 states, a lot of states it affects. And the phrase that I found noticeable was, there's a difference between states that say may and say shall. If you have to say you shall.
Now, let's pause it right there. You'll see the White House and Biden's aides have so much faith in President Biden that they actually needed to give him a note card to remind him to sit in his seat. It says, you take your seat. I mean, wow, it really gives you faith in our president when he needs special instructions reminding him to do simple tasks, doesn't it? The only thing I'm surprised by is the fact that it doesn't issue any reminders to inhale or exhale. Perhaps, though, that was just on another card. Meanwhile, yesterday, the Senate finally passed their bipartisan gun control bill, where 15 Republicans joined all 50 Democrats to help break the filibuster. And really, this was one of those do something knee-jerk reaction pieces of legislation where a tragic event usually happens, which then forces lawmakers to go into rapid action to pass some type of law, at least, to make it look like they're doing something. But these laws usually aren't all that effective, but here they are anyways. So according to Fox News, the bill would provide funding for states to create programs that could keep weapons away from people who are a danger to themselves or others. These are often called red flag laws. It would also enhance background checks for gun buyers under the age of 21, add penalties for some gun criminals, and provide funding for a variety of health and mental health related programs. Now, this could actually be a good thing. It also addresses closing the so-called boyfriend loophole, which is a gap in federal law that means spousal domestic abusers can have gun rights taken away, but not unmarried ones. The bill will now move on to the House, where of course it is expected to pass, and then move on to President Biden's desk for a final signature. As Congressman Thomas Massie puts it though, the bill is an unserious solution and they should trash it rather than pass it. Watch.
Obviously, we do have a problem with these unhinged young men going on these hideous shooting sprees in parking lots in black neighborhoods and elementary schools. Does this bill tackle that problem?
Well, that's the most troubling thing about this bill. It's an unserious solution, and we should trash it, not pass it. The other thing that I'm worried about here, Kennedy, is the unintended consequences of saying to an adult that if you had mental health treatment when you were a child, that you are no longer a first-class citizen, you're a second-class citizen. I'm afraid that will encourage some adults to not seek mental health counseling for their children if they need it, when things could be corrected.
Yes, and obviously, mental health is one of the biggest issues, and they are saying, there are Republicans in the Senate, including your Commonwealth congressional compatriot Mitch McConnell, who joined the Democrats on this, saying that more is needed in terms of education spending on safety and mental health. But my problem with that is, and that's one of the things that would, if I were a congressperson, which hopefully I never will be, no offense, I would not vote for it because...
I'd love to have you.
Absolutely not. They got $200 billion from the federal government, $200 billion, 5% of which has been spent over the last 2 years. So why not take 95% of that money and access more mental health resources for troubled kids, access better safety solutions instead of proposing new legislation, that really has not been properly thought out?
No, that's a great idea. Use the money that's already out there instead of stigmatizing and branding the people who seek mental health treatment or their parents who seek it for them for the rest of their lives. The other problem with this bill is there's hundreds of millions of dollars in here to bribe states into doing red flag laws. And every state in the union has laws on the books that allows for involuntary commitment of anybody who's a danger to themselves or others. The difference between those laws that exist in all 50 states and the red flag laws is due process. The laws that exist require a mental health expert to be involved in the trial. The person is allowed to be there. They're appointed attorney if they can't afford one. And there's a decision that's made with due process. The red flag laws turn all that upside down, take the guns away, and thousands, millions of law-abiding citizens are going to have their guns taken away. And that's why I resent it when Democrats or even some people in the media say, oh, they don't want to take your guns away. Tell me what red flag laws are. They are taking all of the guns away from some people.
It is confiscation, but the thing that really worries me is, it's not new people who are going to buy firearms legally. It's the 300 million guns that are already on the streets. What do you do about those? If you get into a confiscatory environment, how do you access illegal guns? It's not as though people are just going to come forward and be like, here, man, take my stash.
There have been some ridiculous bills passed here in the House. They don't get much attention because they're dead on arrival in the Senate, like the Safe Storage Act that requires you to keep your gun locked in your house. Not only is it unconstitutional, it would be a boon to criminals who want to invade your house to know that every law-abiding citizen is going to have them locked up. Criminals don't obey the law. That is the fundamental problem with all gun control. That's the problem with the stuff that's coming over with the Senate and the trash that's emanating from the House.
Yes, so I agree with you. Most things cannot be solved by government. So how do you solve the problem of hate and mass murder for people, particularly young men, who find it so easy to cross the line and take innocent lives indiscriminately?
Well, they're deranged and you can't reason with them. What they need to know is if they target a school, they're going to meet with certain and unceremonious death instead of being able to rack up a toll of dead, innocent children. So let sane adults protect the children from insane adults. And I have a bill to repeal the 1990 Gun-Free School Zone Act, which was a knee-jerk reaction by Congress 32 years ago that has cost more lives than it saved, and that would be the first step.
In some other news, the Biden administration announced it reached an agreement to cancel $6 billion more in student loan debt for 200,000 students. This was for students who attended mostly for-profit colleges including ones at more than 150 schools such as DeVry University, the University of Phoenix, and ITT Technical Institute. Now, this came from a lawsuit originally filed in 2019 and argued that the Department of Education intentionally stalled the borrower defense process, which is how people apply for relief if they believe a college they attended made false advertising claims. Now, on Biden's first day in office, progressives, of course, in the Democratic Party have been pushing President Biden to cancel $50,000 in student loans for every single student, which of course he would have no authority to do himself and would need to have congressional approval first, which there's pretty much no way that's going to be happening. We're not going to have Republicans canceling $50,000 worth of student loans. And of course, Democrats like Joe Manchin are not going to get on board with that either. Additionally, not only would canceling more student loans add more fuel to the fire that is inflation, but would also be unfair to those who paid off their student loans or, for instance, have some other type of debt, such as a mortgage or credit cards. Now, in some money news, the S&P 500 was up yesterday by a bit less than 1%, and the Nasdaq made big strides, jumping by over 3%. Over the last 5 days alone, the Nasdaq has climbed by over 7.5%, but still, year-to-date is down by 21.83%. Comparably, the S&P 500 is down 20.87% year-to-date. Futures so far today show the S&P 500 up 0.66% and the Nasdaq is up by 0.88%. So it's definitely a great thing we're finally seeing a big rally this week, especially after last week where we saw a pretty significant downturn in the market. Now, whether or not we can close the year out on a strong note is hard to say, especially with the Fed expected to continue raising interest rates over the rest of the year and inflation continuing to go up. The one thing that is for sure is you can still get 6 free stocks from Webull, valued up to possibly over $13,000 if you use the link that I pinned in the comment section below. Once you open an account with Webull, you will need to deposit at least 1 penny in order to receive all 6 stocks at no cost to you. So again, that link will be in a pinned comment below as well as the description box. And as far as Bitcoin goes, at the time of filming this video, we're currently sitting right around the $21,000 per coin mark, with it jumping as high as $21,332 in the last 24 hours. Last Saturday, we saw it drop off below $18,000 per coin, so it should be real interesting to see what type of price movements we have this upcoming weekend. Will Bitcoin make some strides to get back into the 30,000s, or perhaps will we end up seeing more large dips as we inch closer to the $13,000 price predicted by analysts with a bear outlook? Definitely something to keep an eye out on. But on that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you enjoyed the content in today's video and you would like to see more like it, I would encourage you to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also ring the notification bell. That way you will be the very first to be notified when I do release future videos. And until next time, have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.